What's going on, guys? Welcome back to United View. Hope everyone is doing very well, having a good Saturday evening. You asked for it, you enjoyed it, you liked it, so it's back, another late night view. Yes, Saturday evening streams. It's Coronation Day over here in the UK, but it doesn't matter. We're here to talk about football. The real struggle, forget Netflix's version of The Crown, the real crown jewel of football, that is Manchester United. And we're going to be talking about the takeover drama, the battle to see who can own the biggest club in the world. Manchester United. Yes, some developing news and some developments when it comes to the takeover of Manchester United, in particular Sir Jim Ratcliffe. More details about his bid, his plans, how he's going to orchestrate a full takeover, not just acquiring a majority stake but acquiring everything from the Glazers over the span of 3 years. It sounds like someone may have been listening to some of the protests about keeping the Glazers around, full sale only, Glazers out, etc. So certainly we're going to get into that. We're also going to be talking a little bit about some other happenings in the takeover process, how long we can wait before a preferred bidder is announced or at least agreed upon when it comes to the Glazers and the Rain Group 2, because like we were told, bids went in 8 days ago now. We heard 7 to 10 days. Well, a bit like that delivery that should arrive in 7 to 10 days, it might actually be much later than that. It might be later on this month. So we'll talk about that as well. Preview the game a little bit tomorrow. Alejandro Garnacho has been talking about his aspirations at Manchester United. Shock horror, Graham Souness has been slandering United, and we're going to push back on that as well. So there's plenty to discuss this evening. So be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right hand corner as well. See what some of you guys are saying too. There we go. Look, Josh Media. Here he is in the chat with the... what is that? What does that mean? I'm not sure what that means. It means good. I think it means good. I'm not sure in particular what it actually means, but I know it's good. So, I mean, Josh even sent me a voice note the other day saying, "Man like Owen," and I went, "What have I done?" He went, "Nothing. I thought I was just being nice." That was it. And I went, "Oh, wow." And then I don't even remember what the conversation had after that as well. Luxil, one of our members, one of our moderators, says, "Owen, long night ahead. Eyes emoji." Indeed it is. I will be live until the wee hours of this evening, folks. I'll be live on my channel, Owen Wrestle News 365, doing a WWE Backlash watch along. And then after that, a Backlash post show as well. So if that's your kind of thing, or even if it isn't, and you can't sleep, you find yourself at a loose end on a Saturday night and you go, you know what? I can't sleep, or I'm bored, or where I am, it's still a decent hour of the day and I want to join Owen watching a screen of people wrestling in their underwear. Hey, what a Saturday night that is, yeah? What a Saturday night that is for you. But, and someone says Sir Owen as well. Well, my last name does sound a bit royal, but it's not. And, you know, I would appreciate the wealth that comes with that, but no, that's not happening either. What else are people saying too? Brian says, "Hi, how are you?" What else are people saying? Amir says, "I'm hearing noises." Yes, I'm hearing noises as well. Right, what we got to get into? Takeover talk. Yes, takeover talk. A bit of a developing story when it comes to Sir Jim Ratcliffe and his bid for Manchester United today. This came from Mark Kleinman from Sky News, and this was an exclusive from Sky News. And again, quite interesting, as we've spoken about previously, when it comes to all of this takeover stuff. If it's being reported by people outside of the world of football, sort of in the sort of Financial Times or in Bloomberg or Sky News or something, that's when you know it does have maybe a bit more weight to it than just the traditional sports journalists. Not to say they're not doing a good job, because they are, obviously, but at the same time, you sort of think maybe the sources might be slightly more credible. But hey, let's get into it. So they are saying that the billionaire petrochemicals tycoon, yes, Sir Jim Ratcliffe, is proposing a full buyout of Manchester United Football Club. When I read that, I thought, oh, Marcel's written this. He always says Manchester United Football Club. After 3 years, if he succeeds with the £5 billion offer to take control of the Old Trafford outfit. Sky News has learnt that the Ineos billionaire's takeover bid includes put and call arrangements. Everyone Google that now. I did too, which would become exercisable in 2026. It's late, which could pave the way for the Glazer family's complete exit as shareholders. So basically what they're saying is, and this, to be honest, isn't actually new news, really. It's one of those situations whereby it's dressed up. It's dressed up as new news, but we kind of knew this anyway. The reports that came out there last week was that this new bid, valued, put the emphasis on the word values Manchester United more, reportedly, than Sheikh Jassim's 9-2 Foundation, and he was looking to purchase the majority of the majority shares, but the Glazers would still have a minority ownership in Manchester United. But the Glazers could exercise an option in the first or second year, or according to this news story, the third year, to have a complete exit of the club for an additional premium on top of the first amount of money that would be paid to them by Ineos, if that makes sense. So it's just kind of a rehashing of an old story, or maybe a few more details of this news story. Now, this disclosure comes just after a week after the Glazers, who have controlled United since 2005, sought a third round of offers for the club. Sources I'm hearing said this weekend that Sir Jim's offer for majority ownership would include the put and call options, which if triggered could either force the Glazers to sell their remaining shares to him or force him to acquire them at specified future dates, which is quite interesting too when it comes to that as well, because this isn't one-sided. You've got options here for both sides. You've got these put and call options, as they're calling them, can be triggered by either. So you could have Sir Jim Ratcliffe and Ineos say, hey, things are going much better than we thought, and we've got the money to facilitate a full and complete buyout right now. Let's do it right now. They could do it for an agreed price. Or the other side, which worries me, very much worries me, because where's the money going to come from? The Glazers at any point could just go, you know what, we've had another discussion, and we have had enough now. We have decided that now's the time that we want to cash in. You never know what could happen as well. Look what we've lived through in the last few years alone. I'm not saying there's another pandemic coming. I mean, by the way, foreshadowing if it does. And I've predicted it on a random Saturday night stream. But the point being is that you never know what's going to happen in the future. The future is incredibly uncertain. And there could be contractual agreements that say the Glazers at any point can just say, give us the money. And they have to get it, and they have to be given the money. And what happens to Sir Jim Ratcliffe? What happens to Ineos? What happens by proxy to Manchester United because of that? Obviously, that debt isn't linked to United. It's linked to Ineos, these loans that have been acquired by JP Morgan and Goldman Sachs, I think it is. Those are the banks. I think they're funding Sir Jim Ratcliffe. But the point is that that could hurt Manchester United's future plans. On top of the investment that has to be going into the stadium, into the training ground, into the team, into everything else surrounding United. Does that make you feel completely comfortable? It doesn't for me. Now, one insider said the first window to exercise the option would occur 3 years after the deal is completed. That's the first window. The first. So if Sir Jim was successful in his takeover bid, we'd still have to be putting up with the Glazers for 3 years minimum. So the hashtag Glazers out ... in 3 years time, with subsequent periods built into the transaction if the first one was not used by either side. Again, we'd be having this situation that the clock would essentially be reset here. Forget it's a new era. It's morning at Manchester United, as I think it was Ronald Reagan said in his presidential speech. Bit of a diversion, that. I bet you weren't expecting that. It's morning at Manchester United, but not really, because the Glazers are still here, and you just reset the clock. It's like a game of chess. Bang! Hit the timer again, and now suddenly we're waiting another 3 years. Will they go in 3 years' time? Won't they? 3 years comes up, and they can go, no, not right now. Hit the clock again. It's like snoozing when you wake up from a long sleep. I'm gonna wake up at 7. Make it 7:15. Make it past. Turn the alarm off. We're not going anywhere. We're calling in sick today. It could be something like that. Really. Now, this is what the article says, not me. The news may appease some members of United's fan base who are implacably opposed to the Glazers retaining an interest in the club they bought for just under £800 million in 2005. Again, that's the article, not me. The executive co-chairman, Avram and Joel Glazer, are said to be more reluctant to sell than their siblings, prompting Ineos to structure an offer which would allow them to remain as influential shareholders. A rival bid from Sheikh Jassim bin Hamad Al Thani, a Qatari businessman who chairs the Gulf state's Qatar Islamic Bank, is proposing to buy the entirety of United's share capital. Recent reports have suggested that on a valuation basis, Ineos Sports' offer is higher, although concrete details of the two proposals remain unclear. And that's key too, because this is all still speculation. This is all still guessing. This is all I'm hearing. I'm not sure. Last we heard, Manchester United are exploring strategic alternative. Now, what that means is that the club could be or could not be up for sale. Back to the studio. Whoever's in the studio. Jeff. But at the same time, no concrete details. NDAs have been signed. No one knows. And the last time a story came out sort of putting down the Qatari bid, or Sheikh Jassim's bid, they kind of spoke to some people, I think it was Al Jazeera, wasn't it, saying, no, that's not true. And how would people know? Now, some people involved, and this is a key thing too. I know I've said it's a key thing, but again, very, very key, all of this. Some people involved, according to this article from Sky News, in the deal expect a decision about a preferred bidder to be made this month. What? This month? We were told a week ago it was going to be 7 to 10 days. This is like ordering, I don't know. Who was that courier company over here in the UK that was so bad? Hermes. They were so bad that they changed their name, and I forget what they are now. They're something else because they were awful. They were terrible. And they won't say, we just got to change the name, because you'd order stuff, it just wouldn't arrive, you know. It's been delivered today, has it? No. You ring them up. Where's my package? Package? What? I made an order like a week ago. Yeah. It's on its way. Is it? Next day delivery. Next day delivery. This is what it's called now. Every. That's it. Yeah. Because you check every day if it's arrived or not. And it still hasn't. Every. Oh. Is it here yet? Yeah, it's coming around the corner now. Ugh. Ridiculous. But this is what it's like with the takeover bid too, isn't it? That's the reality that we're living in at the moment. 7 days going. The bids have been in. They're gathering dust. You know, they were probably emailed in or something like that. They're gathering dust virtually. That's even how longer they've been there. And still, we've got nothing later on this month. And this is the concern too, is that, of course, this is clearly, it's already affecting next season. It's already affecting the summer. And we're already starting to see it, aren't we? You see Liverpool today, they beat Brentford. We'll get into that in a bit. But, you know, they're already starting to make some moves when it comes to the transfer market. You know, you're hearing stuff about Alexis McAllister. They're talking about maybe Urian Timber. I know these are players we've been linked with as well. But clearly, they decided around December time, we might not make Champions League this season. We're doing a rebuild. We're going after players. Man City, even though they're focused on all of these competitions at the moment, you know they're focused on the players they're going to get. Arsenal will be the same too. They'll have their targets that they're looking for already. United, even Ten Hag saying it in the press conference. Obviously, there are players that he wants, and obviously there are positions that he wants to recruit on. But when he was asked in the press conference, do you know what budget you're working with? No. Because how can you? You don't know who the owners are. Yes, a rough sort of, they're saying, well, maybe 100 million FFP, maybe sell some players. But the overall strategy and the overall landscape, the hierarchy of the club could change like that, depending on if and when a takeover does happen. There are certain people that Sir Jim reportedly wants to bring in, if indeed it's him that wins this takeover race. I'm sure Sheikh Jassim's got his own people he would like to be bringing in as well. And I'm talking about people that he wants to run the club. You know, John Murtough's the current football director, but it might be someone else. They might want to put in a new position altogether, a new role to assist in transfers and recruitment and what have you. So this is already affecting next season. There's an argument it's not even an argument. It has affected this season as well. Look at January. We couldn't spend in January because we had no money, and we had no money because of our current owners. So this has affected this season too. So when I hear, a preferred bidder might be made this month, that sounds very vague. Very, very vague. Is it this month could mean tomorrow? It could mean May 31st. And if we're talking about every settings, it could be October. Who knows when actually it's going to happen. And we had heard these rumours and reports before, hadn't we, that some people within the takeover race almost doubted the Glazers' actual desire to sell or what they actually wanted to do. And as time goes on, it does make you wonder, like, do they even know what they want to do? Because I'm not sure they do. We've got a real life, the TV show Succession, playing out at the biggest football club in the world. Siblings that want to sell, other siblings that want to stay. well, this guy saying that he's going to buy the majority of our majority, but keep us around. Actually, then, but we could stick around if we wanted to, or he could kick us out in 3 years, but he'd have to give us like $1 billion in 3 years' time, or we can request that $1 billion in a year's time. We're going to be leeching that entire time. We won't get dividends, but we will benefit from a share price that will go up because of a takeover. Even then, if they wanted to sell their shares, they'd make a ton more money than they would right now because the share price has gone like that with all of the takeover talk. And then every time the Glazers they think are going to stick around, it goes like that, back down again. You know, so it could be all manipulation when it comes to that as well. It's just, it's a soap opera. It really is. Forget Coronation Day, Manchester actually, Coronation Street, soap opera-esque, and it's worse. I mean, you got bad actors in Coronation Street, you got bad actors running the football club at the moment. Look at me, very satirical today. I should be on Have I Got News For You. In addition to the two proposals, which would trigger a change of control, the Glazers, as according to this article, have also received at least 4 credible offers for minority stakes or financing investments in the club too. These include an offer from American giant financial investor Carlyle, revealed by Sky News last month. Other financial investors have shown interest in becoming minority investors by providing capital to allow United to revamp the ageing infrastructure of its Old Trafford home and Carrington training ground. Those which have lodged minority investment proposals with Rain include Elliott Management, the American hedge fund, which until recently owned AC Milan, Ares Management Corporation, a US-based alternative investment group, and Sixth Street, which recently bought a 25% stake in the long-term La Liga broadcasting rights to FC Barcelona. Oh yeah, I forgot they did all that last year. We don't have any money trouble, but we're going to be selling off an arm and a leg, like we're sort of, I don't know, organ donating. You know, things are bad when you're like, I'm selling blood to try and fix my transfer strategy. Essentially what they were doing last summer. Now, when it comes to these minority investors, for me, I don't think these minority investors, I don't think that's going to be the direction that it's going in, honestly, because, you know, they weren't subject to the same deadlines as Sheikh Jassim and Sir Jim Ratcliffe were. The deadline for the full people. Oh, someone scored. Oh, it's Osasuna. They've equalised in the Copa del Rey final. Sorry, I've got that one in the background. It's very unprofessional, but it caught my eye because I saw Man City play today, and of course they're playing Real Madrid in the Champions League this week. 1-1. Don Carlo, what are you going to do? Oh, God, they've got a lot of people there as well, aren't they? Osasuna, look at it. It's a sea of red. Man, look at that. What was I saying? Oh yeah, I was talking about minority investment. Yeah, I don't think the minority investors will win that race purely because, and this is how badly United have been run at this stage, is that fixing the stadium and the training ground, that's not enough. That doesn't fix United's issues. That's a band-aid over a massive problem at United now, just purely financial. That's a problem at United. The cash balance is low. The club is bled dry at a time which they do need to invest in the stadium and the training ground. So if these people that came in and offered this, you know, oh, here's some capital to redo your stadium, or here's some capital to do your training ground, well, that's great. But again, it still doesn't fix, again, massive financial problems at United that are rapidly on the horizon and need to be addressed fairly soon. Otherwise, the club might be, you know, in trouble of falling behind even more so than they already have. So that's why I think all of these minority people, you know, they're just hoping that they might be, you know, sort of a last gasp option for the Glazers. But I think they see that these two sort of bigger offers are on the table, and that's what they're looking for. But they're still looking for more. It's still not enough. So look at that. I keep getting distracted. Someone's like, oh, flares. They're going crazy, Osasuna. So, but again, so I think the most likely avenue again would be down this losing the majority route. But again, we don't know if that's losing everything and going to the 9-2 Foundation or Sir Jim Ratcliffe. And to be honest, when I did see these reports come out today, that, you know, and clearly it's coming from the Ineos camp. I mean, it doesn't take a brain surgeon to figure that out, that it's, you know, Ineos explaining in more detail what their bid is comprised of. To me, and this is just speculation on my part, but this felt like a response to the pushback that was rightfully so there. when the reports came out after Friday, when was it? It was last weekend, wasn't it? I think I sat down with you guys around this time last weekend, and the news was that Jim Ratcliffe was the favourite, Ineos was the favourite or the front runner, because he had given the Glazers an opportunity to stick around. Essentially, he would take around 50%, something like that, and the Glazers would still hold about 19%. Those numbers are arbitrary, but the point being is that he would be in control. He would have the majority shares of United. He would be running things. It would be, for all intents and purposes, his club, but the Glazers would still be around. And that was and that was the story at the time. And rightfully so, people like myself and who others said that's not good enough. That's not what we're looking for, and that's not what you said. When Jim Ratcliffe first put out that press release, when he made his first bid back in February, I think it was, he said about, a fan-centric approach to ownership, putting the Manchester back in Manchester United, embracing the club's roots in the Northwest, etc., etc. Used all these buzzwords, a British bid, and he was going to keep the Glazers around, which flew in the face of everything that he said previously. How can you have a fan-centric approach to ownership by keeping the people that are leeching off the club around? How can you be embracing the club's roots in the Northwest when the people that have ripped up those roots in the Northwest and put them into wherever, the Cayman Islands, next to Sir Jim Ratcliffe, by the way, how can you want to be keeping those people around? And it feels like, doesn't it, that this is an attempt to be like, no, see, we're on the same wavelength. I'm the same as you. I want to get these people out, but I can't do it straight away. And I've got to make a deal with the devil to at least get my foot in the door. Because otherwise, they're not going to want us out. They don't want us out. Bullshit. Of course they want us out. They're exploring strategic alternatives. They need the money. They need the cash. Of course they need to sell. But, I'm just a fan. Kasper Schmeichel's been on TV. He supports United. He's involved. He's involved, all right. He's involved in keeping the Glazers around and really lining their pocket and giving them the option. Don't give them the option. They don't deserve the option. Frankly, they don't deserve the money. But, okay, we have to come to peace with that, because otherwise we're not going to get our club back. But they definitely don't deserve the option to stick around and ride out any future success. Can you imagine driving the club into the ground to the point that you need to sell it because you can't basically afford to invest in it anymore and the dividends are dry, so I'm going to sell it. And then someone else comes in, bankrolls a new stadium, bankrolls a new training ground, possibly bankrolls success, and bankrolls United into whatever the future of football is going to look like in terms of broadcasting fees and rights and increased revenue and all this kind of stuff. And you get to enjoy that. You get to feast on that too. When you've really contributed really nothing at that point. You're just a minority shareholder. You've done nothing. You haven't done anything anyway for 15 plus years, however long it's been. But for the next 3 years, you really do nothing. You sit there firmly with your thumb up your ass. And then I can just press a button. 3 years' time, bang, I'll have the rest of my shares, please. I'll cash out like it's an accumulator on a Saturday afternoon and you've put some bets on. It makes me angry. And that's what I felt like today was. Now, I've got a members chat that I did see, and then I got distracted by the television. Lux Hill has been a member for 3 months, says Jim has snaked every person who backed him versus Sheikh Jassim's bid from the beginning. No real United fan would back a bid where the Glazers stay. And I agree. But for me, today felt like an exercise in trying to sort of win back some favour. Not that I don't think he had a particularly a lot anyway from a lot of United fans, so Jim Ratcliffe, but I felt like it was damage control and again an attempt to kind of sort of say, no, I'm trying, from the inside I'm really trying. We're gonna get him out, don't worry. But it's gonna take a while. It's gonna take longer than we thought. That's what it's going to be. So I didn't lie in the first place. And look, he probably would point to his first, prior to him even making a bid, he said something to, was it the Times in the summer, before United was officially up for sale. It wasn't even him, I don't think. I think it was an Ineos spokesperson, said something to the Times that said that he was interested in acquiring a majority stake in United for view to a full takeover of the club, which is essentially what he's doing. So he'll probably point to that and say, I lived up to my word. That's what I said way back when, and I did it. And somewhere Michael Knighton will be doing cartwheels. And, saying, see, it was because of me. And I got my, the Dark Knighton got out his Jim Ratcliffe signal and shone it into the sky, and he responded. That's what it was. Super chat from Amanor says, Owen, Amanor, I am paranoid that Liverpool are 1 point behind us. Well, this is also something that I mentioned the other day, wasn't it? After we lost against Brighton, is that we were going to. This was going to be the circumstance going into Sunday because we play tomorrow and because Liverpool played this afternoon. And I agree with Flex, honestly, that Liverpool are probably going to win every game between now and the end of the season. I think when you look at their games, they've got a really good run in. So I expect them to win all their games. And because of that, we go into tomorrow's game 1 point ahead. And that's it, with a game in hand. I'd rather have points on the board than games in hand, but that's kind of been the season that we've had. And the key thing is just got to win. Just got to win. And to be honest, and this is where not only do the players need to hold their nerves, but also us as fans have to hold our nerve too, I think, and not panic and not go crazy and not, because I saw a lot of that on Thursday when we lost to Brighton. I saw a lot of after the game real reactionary stuff. We're not going to get top 4. We've completely blown this. It's over. I can't believe we're effing this up. We're not qualifying all this season for nothing. And you do have to take a step back. And I know because of what Arsenal have done this season and because of what Don Robbie was saying, with it's all in our hands. And then they did literally screw it up. But it is. You cannot ignore that it is still in our hands. We still do control our own destiny. And even if we lose tomorrow, we still control our own destiny. What we're looking at is, I think it's 3 wins we need. We need 3 wins. And we do have, was it 3 home games? I think it's Wolves, Chelsea, Fulham. Now, we shouldn't have to rely on all of those 3. And if we do, that's going to be really uncomfortable. But my feeling is that we won't have to. Look, Chelsea beat Bournemouth away from home. Chelsea, Frank Lampard's Chelsea. They got 3 points today. They won a game. Frank won a game. He's no longer talking to Frank. He needed to after that the majority of his tenure as Chelsea caretaker manager. They beat Brighton away. They wish. Bournemouth away. And I know that you could say, well, Liverpool went to Bournemouth this season away from home and they lost, but that's a different Bournemouth. Bournemouth are safe at this point. Bournemouth, they've already achieved what they didn't think they were going to. They're going to be in the Premier League next season. That's not to say they're taking it easy, because they're not, but something subconsciously can kind of just switch off, So again, even if the result doesn't go our way tomorrow, and I'm more confident in this game than I was going into Brighton. I was with Flex. I didn't think we were going to get anything from Brighton. And there was pushback to that because people were, why are you being so negative? Why? Look, we're Manchester United. Yeah, we are Manchester United, but look how we've been away from home against teams in the top half this season. There is no evidence to suggest going into that game against Brighton that we were going to get anything out of that game. None. No evidence this season. And we came pretty close. It was unfortunate at the end. We played well for a half, but football isn't played over one half, it's played over 2. And over 99 minutes at the end, we weren't good enough. So I didn't really expect us to pick up anything. Tomorrow, if we lost tomorrow, then I would be really disappointed, because I do think we're better than that. Against teams in the bottom half of the season away from home, we have got the job done. West Ham, they've got bigger games on the horizon. They've got a Europa Conference League semi-final on Thursday, and that's really their season at that point. They're not mathematically safe, but they probably will be. They're probably going to stay in the Premier League, and they'll probably have other games that they might be focusing on as well. They've also had a virus in their camp, so there could be important players that don't even make it tomorrow because they're saving them for Thursday. So it's really there for the taking for United. And football's a funny thing, because yes, there's a bit of nervousness and trepidation at the moment, but if we win tomorrow, then suddenly like that, things change, doesn't it? Because then you've got 4 points, game in hand. We've got all of these home games. We've got Wolves next at home. We've got a week to build up to that Wolves game, by the way. So we don't have a midweek game for the first time since before pretty much since we come back from the World Cup. Oh, Real Madrid scored. And so we've got a week to prepare for that. Players can get rested. They can get fresh. Ten Hag can have a full week to prepare the team as well. Wolves, they've basically secured I think today they secured their Premier League survival by beating Aston Villa. So again, their minds could be taken off it. And then suddenly if you can beat Wolves, then suddenly you're laughing. You need one more win. So again, for me, I think that tomorrow, I think things can change tomorrow and things can look more positive. But if it doesn't work out, it's still, we have to really royally, pun intended for today, but really royally F this up for us to not qualify for the top 4. And I know now, today, looking at the table, there's 1 point in it. But it's technically 2 games in hand, isn't it, at the moment, because Liverpool played. So, I was just nearly went out from Vinicius. But I'm fairly, I won't say confident, but I still think, as I said after the game against Brighton on Thursday, I still think we'll get top 4. I do see a scenario where we essentially fall over the line and, we make it a bit more difficult for ourselves and it does get nervy and nerve-wracking, but that's... I think I still think that we'll do it. I do. See what some of you guys are saying in the chat. SJ, one of the mods, says the longest time we've been saying we have to win all the games and we don't. Yeah, I mean that's the thing. Obviously, in an ideal world, we would have won. We'd have beat Spurs away. We'd have beat Brighton away, and it'd be done essentially. But again, for me, that was optimistic for us to say that because again, away from home against teams in the top half, there's just been no evidence that we were going to do that on Thursday. And actually, as I said, I was quite, after the first half against Brighton, I was actually fairly happy because I thought we did all right in the first half. I did. We played pretty well. We were intense. We were pressing quite well, create chances. That's the thing tomorrow, really, isn't it? Is that if we squander the same amount of chances that we were doing against Brighton on Thursday, then I'll be livid. Because that for me was the biggest takeaway from the Brighton game, and it's been a thing all season. And this was one of the big discourses, wasn't it, coming out of the Brighton game? Is people were blaming David De Gea or blaming our defenders, Luke Shaw or whatever, for the reason that we lost that game. When for me, if you're going to blame anyone or any group of people for that loss against Brighton, it should be the attackers because they didn't do their job. They didn't hold up their end of the bargain. They didn't put the chances away that were created for them. It's one thing if there was no chances created, but there were several, and it was poor. So tomorrow, if there's an opportunity, take it. Be ruthless. Now maybe that's naive of me because we haven't been that all season. So why should I expect us randomly just to do it? But again, I think we have enough about us to get something at West Ham tomorrow. And even if it's not a win, even if it's a point, I'll take it at this point. I'll take that because that's still, we still got those home games and we still have another away game as well against Bournemouth. Just pick up points. It's still in our hands. What else are you guys saying here as well? King of the Indie says, nighttime Owen is even more reckless. He's like the living embodiment of 90s WWE. I hope not, because 90s WWE does not hold up. Wow, it holds up if you lived through it at the time, 90s WWE, and you watch it today, it warms the heart and you go, I remember, yes, my childhood. But if you watch it back and you haven't really seen it and you sort of judge it by today's standards and morals and what's acceptable and not acceptable to say and do in society, I mean, it's pretty tough watch at times. So are those like Raws in, the late 90s. Oh my goodness me. I mean, it's... that is proper, like, you can't come back from some of those things that they were doing back then. I don't know how they get away with it. To be honest, it's one of those ones that even then, I think there was some kind of acknowledgement that it probably wasn't acceptable, some of the things that they were doing, and they just did it anyway, and now it's really not acceptable. That's, it's kind of nuts. But if you are just joining us again, the latest when it comes to the takeover news is kind of a rehashing of what was already out there, but a bit more detail on it. I mentioned the story from Sky News as well, but it was also reported from James Ducker from The Telegraph, who is saying that Sir Jim Ratcliffe is proposing a deal that would force the Glazers' exit after 3 years should he win the battle for control at Manchester United. It has emerged. The billionaire founder of Ineos, the petrochemicals giant, which, by the way, the same in terminology used by both. And again, that's when in this kind of industry, when you see buzzwords or key phrases that are repeated verbatim, you know that they're getting their information from the same source. The billionaire founder of Ineos, the petrochemicals giant, is believed to have proposed an option in his £5 billion takeover bid that would allow the Glazers to retain a minority stake at Old Trafford. Yet it is thought that particular proposal includes a so-called put and call agreement, which, if triggered, would pave the way for the complete exit of the Glazers as shareholders in 2026. Bidders who submitted third and final bids to Rain, the merchant bank running the process a week last Friday, are hoping for some clarity over the situation next week. But again, hope. They're like us. They're smoking the hopium and drinking the hope juice too, because they don't know. I mean, I saw that Carve was on Sky Sports News, I think it was yesterday, a week removed from the bids going in. What's the latest? And he sort of basically said the latest is they're still waiting to hear back from Rain. They're still waiting to hear if there's any feedback. And in lieu of having, I guess, any feedback, you're then left to do what it seems like Ineos and Sir Jim Ratcliffe are doing right now, which is let's just keep putting stuff out there. Let's keep putting stuff out there. Let's keep trying to position ourselves as the preferred option, as the front runner, as the people leading the race. Because, I mean, if they're doing that because they think that's going to put some pressure on the Glazer family, Joel and Avram could give two shits about, pressure or what the fans want. If anything, part of me feels like that the Glazers would just do the opposite of what the fans want, just to spite us one more time before leaving. They'd go, who do they want? And then whichever one is the majority, the majority of fans want, they go, do the other one. And they go, what if it's not as good for us money-wise? They'll be like, something to consider. Maybe. But if this information is being put out there by Sir Jim Ratcliffe and Ineos, as I mentioned, to sort of win some stock back in the court of public opinion and say, we're trying to get the Glazers out. If they think the Glazers really care about what bid has better fan support, then that's very naive. Maybe as naive as trying to keep the Glazers around and think it's not going to backfire. Maybe that's what all of this is, just incredibly naive. Some look at it as shrewd because it's the most likely way to win this process is give the Glazers what they want, and what they really want is money now, money in the future, and control. That's what the Glazers truly want. That's what they've thrived upon for nearly 2 decades, is control. They like to control the situation. They like to have the final say on everything, even though they're completely incompetent with control and having the final say on anything related to football. But that's what they really care about, control and money. So you could argue it's shrewd on the part of Ineos that they're giving the Glazers what they want, which is money now, money later, and still an element of control. Not majority control, but still control over a situation that they don't have full control over. Or you could argue it's very naive, thinking that you can give the Glazers an inch and they won't take a mile. Because if you give the Glazers any element of control over the situation in business, they are not your friends. They will get you, they will bite you, they will screw you over. Just ask 1 billion fans. That's what they like to say at Manchester United has. 1 billion fans. We're the most followed club in the world. 1 billion supporters all around the globe. Just ask every single one of that billion if you can trust the Glazers. And 100% will say no. You cannot trust them. And if you think that by entering into some kind of loose business relationship, they're going to be minority people, and yes, they have the option to trigger selling their shares after 3 years, but they'll let me know and they'll make sure the funds are in place. No, they won't. They will not. They will screw you over, because again, that's what they do. Be sure to smash a like on the like button, by the way, guys. I know that was quite dark and sort of dystopian where I was going. JK says, can Jim fix it? No, he can't. No more rats. lot of people going with the rat part of the Ratcliffe name, aren't they? I've seen quite a lot of that recently. What else did I want to talk about as well? Oh, yes, I did want to talk about Graham Souness as well. Whilst I'm on one this evening, whilst I'm ranting and raving and screaming at the top of my lungs at 20 to 11, it's going to be a long night, folks. Hit the like on the like button if you haven't already. We've got over 600 people watching, 3 less than 200 in terms of the likes. I say we'll stagger this. Last time I tried to sort of offer promises for certain levels of likes, it didn't work out. But we can stagger this. I think maybe I should set the goals a little bit lower. I say if we can get to 300 likes, we'll get Marcel and his crazy smile up on the screen. Yeah, Marcel, when Josh took a piece of watermelon off him on the train, he was so happy, and there's joy and just insane energy in his eyes. If we get to 300 likes, that will be on the screen. If we get to 400 likes, we'll get KG, zooming in on the screen. If we get to 500, we'll get Eric with the thumb up. That's the offer that I'm making you. 300, we get Crazy Marcel. 400, we get KG, and 500, we get Eric. We get Eric with the thumbs up. That's what we're going with. So that's up to you. That's just like Manchester United. Your destiny is in your own hands, and all you have to do, click the like button, and anything's possible. Anything's possible. Alvin says, Owen, Backlash watch along tonight. Yes, there will be a Backlash watch along on my channel, Owen Wrestle News 365. Recently hit 11k on there. Yeah. So if that's your thing, you can come and join me this evening as well. Tabislaw with the super chat, one of our long-time members, mods, supporters, an OG here at United View, says, whatever that means, by the way. I don't understand the Glazers. Do they have a guarantee that they will live for the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years? Gary Neville says. Why not take the Qatari and live a happy life? Well, this was kind of something that I was pointing out previously, wasn't it? Was that when it came to possibly selling to the 9-2 Foundation, you could argue it would be really strategic, because the Glazers, the United and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are not their only business interests. They have plenty of other fingers in various pies, as it were, because they've got, I think it's shopping centres, hotels, and it was put out there previously, I think it was by like the Financial Times or something like that, that said that they were considering selling to Sheikh Jassim, because obviously to open up connections in that part of the world can be incredibly lucrative. And if they need, if they want to open a hotel in Doha, or they want to open a shopping centre there, or they just want someone to help finance them for a project in the future, they know who to pick up the phone to, and maybe they can be put in touch with someone. So that could be strategic on that part. And it was put out there the other day, wasn't it, by Ben Jacobs, that Sheikh Jassim and the 9-2 Foundation, they haven't given up. They're still very bullish on the matter. They still think they're well within the race. They're still waiting to hear back, because whilst the Glazers could decide, we're going to go with Sir Jim Ratcliffe, he's our preferred bidder, maybe that does provoke a reaction. Until it's done, until the deals are signed, sealed and delivered, as Stevie Wonder said, there is always a chance. And the 9-2 Foundation had intimated, look, if we're not happy with the way things are going and the progress of how things are going, we might just go straight directly to the Glazers and say, hey, forget Rain, forget all these intermediaries, here's the money, or here's what do you want, let's work this out. Because we have, and this is something I've pointed out since the start, let's be honest, if Sheikh Jassim truly, desperately, really wants Manchester United, he has the deepest pockets in anyone in this race, and he could, the number that the Glazers are looking for allegedly is £6 billion. He could do that tomorrow. He could, but they've said since the beginning that they don't want to be, or they're not going to bend over backwards, and they're not going to be, they're not going to overpay, and they already feel like they're in the territory of overpaying right now, because the actual worth of United in terms of the New York Stock Exchange is like 3.5 billion. So bidding 5 when the Glazers want 6, they feel like that's overpaying, and they don't want to do that. But if push comes to shove, if they really wanted to do it, they could do it. So that's always been my thought on this, is that if they genuinely, I don't care what it takes, what it costs, I want to do it, then they could if they want to. I mean, Carve has gone two different ways of it. From one point he said they don't want to overpay, and the other way he said they do want to overpay. They're willing to overpay. So again, even that's somewhat confusing. All of this is kind of just, it's all madness, isn't it? It's all just hearsay. It's all, as I mentioned earlier on, a soap opera. No one really knows. There's kind of guesswork. There's both parties leaking out stuff, but only the stuff that makes them look good or they believe puts them in a good light. No one truly knows what the Glazers are thinking or what the Glazers actually want. There are people within the bidding process that think the Glazers aren't even really that interested in selling at all. Some people, conspiracy theories that they never had any intention of selling. It's just to drive up a share price to acquire a new loan. They just want to get a new loan, and they want to get a new loan based on a higher share price. And all of this was just a front to do that. I don't even know if that's legal, to be honest. But so no one knows. It's all kind of guesswork, and it's all just infuriating, because at the heart of this is this, incredible, iconic football club with 1 billion followers, 1 billion fans, that are being taken for this ride and live in this degree of uncertainty the whole time. And important people within the football club are living in this element of uncertainty where they have no idea what the future looks like, and not in sort of metaphorical sense of, well, you never know what tomorrow brings. It's no, we can't even plan for the future because we don't know. We don't know what direction the club's going in. Some people, they're like, I don't even know if I'm going to have a job. I don't know what budgets are. I don't know, I don't know. That is the best way to describe it, isn't it? I don't know. And because of that, it's constant guesswork and constant uncertainty at a time that we want to be planning, and we want to, and bear in mind, we're in the middle of a rebuild of all of this. You brought in a manager for the next 5 years, however long Ten Hag's contract is, and part of his thing is embracing new styles of play and trying to bring through young players and redevelop and rejuvenate and regenerate this side and take them back to the top. And we've seen, to get a football team back to the top and really competing with a team like Manchester City, which, look, they're local rivals, but they're unbelievable. To try and at least even compete with them, it takes a project. It takes synergy on so many levels. Look at the clubs that have been able to do it. Look at Arsenal this season. Look at the synergy that is there between manager and director of football, and to a lesser extent the board. I know at one point they were cronkies out, but Arteta and Eddie are clearly on the same page when it comes to recruitment and bringing through the youngsters there. And look at Liverpool. For a couple of years, their recruitment was absolutely superb, and that's why they competed. And if City weren't there, they would have been dominating English football for 5 years. Whereas us, that synergy, it can't work, because there's no way to plan for a future that you have no idea what that future looks like. And everything hangs in the balance at the moment, doesn't it? And the key thing is, I suppose, for people like Ten Hag and the players, you just can't focus on that. Focus on tomorrow. Focus on the get in the top 4 this season. See if you can win the FA Cup, even though you're massive underdogs for it, and hope that by the time next season rolls around, this is all sorted. And in the grand scheme of things, I know it will be frustrating, but let's say there's a takeover that where the majority of the fans are happy with, and it does take a little bit longer, but we get there in the end. Then maybe just a slower transfer window is what it is, Red Baron with the super chat says, the best thing is to be detached. Why let the Glazers determine our emotions? It's very easier said than done, isn't it? Because look at the reaction that was there after Thursday. I don't think many people are detached, are they? That's part of the problem. And it means a lot. It means so much that people have been protesting and making their voices heard for nearly 2 decades. And this is why I think it's really tense at the moment too, is because there is a feeling of, we're so close. People have spoken about this, and as I mentioned, protested and done so much and hoped. Just even if they haven't been able to do as much as they'd want to, hoped for a long time, then it's this close. And the end result, even if it is them sticking around, that's kind of a weak victory, doesn't it? That's what it kind of feels like with it too. I said I did want to talk about something else as well. It's not just going to be total takeover talk. For the last 10 minutes, I do want to talk about one Graham Souness. And this will cheer us up, guys, because Graham Souness, I mean, why wouldn't that cheer us up? I saw this and it piqued my interest because Graham Souness is an idiot. And he said, quote, Bruno Fernandes is obviously not a leader. It's as plain as the nose on the end of your face. His attitude when they went 3-0 down at Liverpool was appalling. You certainly would not want to be in the trenches with him. I wouldn't want to be in the trenches with Graham Souness because he's a miserable old shit, is what he is. Graham Souness as well, who you would think the way he talks was the model professional when he played. Go watch a video of Graham Souness when he was a footballer for Liverpool or Rangers or whatever. The most vicious, dirty player when it comes to tackles, when it comes to breaking legs, when it comes to whatever, you would think with him that he was this total football model professional. And to be honest, when it comes to Graham Souness as well, because I'm not one of those people, because I see, you know, I saw this before, those sort of younger fans that would go, who is he? What's Graham Souness ever done? Because the reality is Graham Souness has achieved a lot in football when he was a player. As a manager, nothing, basically. You know, went to Liverpool, did nothing as a manager. Went to Turkey, basically incited a riot by sticking a flag in the middle of the pitch. You know, where else did he go? Blackburn. He might have won the League Cup. Good for him. Went to Newcastle, got sacked as well. What else did he do? And I think nothing after that. As a football player, achieved quite a lot. But the thing is with him, you can't... Anytime he opens his mouth on something that's related to Manchester United, null and void. Null and void. There is nothing to be taken serious about Graham Souness talking about Manchester United. Why? Because he hates us. Like, it's not even... It's as clear as that. When has Graham Souness ever praised Man United? Ever. The only time he praises us for losing. That's about it. You know, he wallows in it. Absolutely wallows in it. I remember when we lost to Liverpool earlier this season, 7-0. And before the game, he was like, I've never been so confident of a Liverpool win. And after the game, obviously the performance, how it happened, he was like, see, I told you, I always knew that was going to be the case. And it was like, no, that is the absolute definition of a broken clock being right twice a day. Because he was just trolling. And that's why, he's not a pundit for Sky anymore, but that's why, how can you be a pundit? You're meant to provide analysis. There is no analysis to what he says. It's just, let me slag off Man United. That's it. And Bruno Fernandes is obviously not a leader. Bruno Fernandes is much more of a leader than the actual club captain at the moment. Win or lose, Bruno Fernandes always comes out after the game and does an interview. Win or lose, people can complain about Bruno and complain about his behaviour or his attitude or what have you. And to be honest, after that Liverpool game, you know, when he pushed the linesman or whatever, and I saw more non-United fans complaining about Bruno Fernandes than actual United fans. It's refreshing, I think, to see a United player and captain that cares. Because that's how low it's been in recent years. For certain players, honestly, he cares. You know, he wants to win. Does he go about it the right way all the time? No. In an ideal world, would he be always moaning to the referee? No. In an ideal world, would sometimes he be rolling around on the floor? No, it wouldn't. But I wouldn't want to change him. I don't think that's right. I wouldn't want to change him and then him become less of a person or care less because we forced him to change how he plays football. And again, some of the criticism that Bruno Fernandes gets, whether it's from people that aren't United fans or sometimes it is from United fans, I find staggering. You know, you look at what this guy has done in terms of what he's contributed to the team since he came in 2020 is staggering. This season alone, when he didn't play because he was suspended, by the way, he doesn't miss games. You know, he only misses it because of suspension. When he does, every time he rarely misses a game, we go, oh my goodness me, we really miss Bruno Fernandes, don't we? Wow. I didn't even realise how much. And he's been shoehorned around all over the place, particularly on the second half of the season. He's number 10. But I sometimes go on the right. Sometimes it's let's go deeper as an 8. Sometimes at one point it was go as a 6. You know, for the team, for the betterment of the team. Less effective in those roles, but it's for the betterment of the team. Because he is a leader. He absolutely is a leader. And when it matters, he does step up. And he does make it count. And again, even in those games where it doesn't work out, he'll talk. He'll go and do interviews. And he'll go and hold the hands up and say, yeah, it's not good enough. And he does care. And maybe he doesn't demonstrate that the best way, but I'd rather that than people not caring at all and just walking off after the game and then, again, doing the post on social media, we go again. But apparently Graham Souness, he's not a leader, because he's got a bad attitude. And I know it's playground sort of stuff, but takes one to know one. The people that can sort of see people that have a bad attitude are usually the ones that have it in the first place. And I just think it's nonsense. It really is absolute nonsense. And maybe I've given him too much time there, certainly. Super chat here from Red Baron says, the media gets our own fans to target our players. I mean, again, sometimes this is what I've noticed too. And I noticed it a lot at the beginning of the season, and I notice it now. Whenever Manchester United go through a difficult period, and we've gone through Real Madrid have won Copa del Rey. Whenever we've gone through a difficult time this season, we've had those big defeats, and we have had them. Oh, they are like flies on shit, aren't they? They are just loving it. And the coverage that it gets is incredible. You remember early on this season when Erik ten Hag lost his opening 2 games? Gary Neville and Jamie Carragher went to interview him 2-on-1 in person at Carrington. A guy that's new to the league. His English ain't great. He had some really difficult starts. Peppering him with questions. And the other teams this season that haven't had the greatest time, and their managers have gone as well, or they've gone through rough patches. I didn't see that. I didn't see that this season. I didn't see Neville and Carragher go and do a 2-on-1 interview with Antonio Conte after he was screaming at the press. I didn't see them, really, really criticising Graham Potter until right at the end. I mean, right at the end. When it came to Graham Potter, it was ludicrous. I mean, this guy was winning nothing, and Chelsea were doing terrible, and it was still. And I remember one game. It was just at the beginning. It might have been like February or something like that, actually. They were pitch side, and he'll get it right in the end. Didn't hear about that when it came for Graham Potter, and then eventually he got sacked because, again, he wasn't good enough. I didn't see when Liverpool, for a large portion of the season, were 10th, them getting really on the back of them. It's just a transitional season. They'll come back to it in the end. I didn't see all that kind of stuff. I didn't even see it with Steven Gerrard when he got sacked at Aston Villa. I mean, we're talking about Frank Lampard, who today they're going, finally Frank got his first win for Chelsea on like the 6th or 7th attempt. Wow, it's good. Frank, he's, stepped in at a difficult time. The double standard that is there when it comes to it, I think, is crazy. And it's nuts. It is. But there you go. I feel a lot better now this evening. I feel like I've whinged and rambled for an hour until I was red in the face. And yes, certainly much better. Did I see a rogue Josh in the chat, or was that someone else? Because at any occasion, I will let him know that he's a disgrace and a cheat. Not for any reason in particular. It's just that's how you communicate with Josh. But there you go, guys. As I mentioned, be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right-hand corner. What's on tap tomorrow? Wow. What's on tap tomorrow? Of course, it's match day. Strange start time, isn't it? Or strange kickoff time. It's 7 o'clock kickoff here in the UK. I can only assume that was because... Well, no, that makes no sense, actually, what I was going to say. I was going to say because maybe it was meant to be originally... today at 12:30, but obviously there wasn't a game at 12:30 today because of the coronation, but we played on Thursday, so we were always going to play on Sunday. I don't know then. No, that was a strange kickoff time, and I feel bad for those travelling from up north to London for the game, because from Manchester to the game, because how on earth are they going to get back on a Sunday on those trains or whatever? That's crazy. Luxhill says something to do with policing in London, Owen. Yeah, maybe something to do with that. But still, it's not great, is it? It's not ideal. But As I mentioned, match day tomorrow, so we will be live match view inside UVHQ. We'll have fan views afterwards. Of course, we'll have the full-time view. We'll be live afterwards with the full-time view as well. We'll have a road trip setting, so full match day coverage, match day experience, so be sure to join us. Here's hoping we get that away win, and then what? We're 2 wins away. That's all it takes, 2 wins away from getting that Champions League football, getting that top 4 that we're looking for. As I mentioned, I will be live later on this evening in the wee hours of this morning on my channel doing a Backlash watch along, so if you wish to join me, you can. If not, we'll see you all tomorrow for Manchester United's clash against West Ham. I'm out of here. Peace.